information afternoon. I was going to say morning, but we're now into the afternoon. We have some exciting information regarding next year to deliver to you today. Mr. Mao, our Careers Pathways Coordinator, will also be speaking, as well as Ms. Peters, who's an expert on everything VCAL. So the three of us are going to be talking to you this morning about VCE, pathways with VET and skill-based apprenticeship and VCAL. So lots and lots of different information coming your way today. We've got some time at the end of the session for questions, so please don't be afraid to ask. If you feel like you're going to forget, please interrupt me by putting up your hand and I'll answer your question there and then. If I feel like I'm going to cover it a little bit later, I'll just indicate that to you. But if you feel like you can remember your question, there'll be a little snippet at the end where there's an opportunity for you to ask them. So today we're going to talk about the following information. So careers, an overview of the senior pathway options, requirements of the two different pathways, which is VCE and VCAL. We'll be looking at VET and how that dovetails into VCAL and VCE, school-based apprenticeships as well. I will untangle, if you like, the ATAR a little bit for you. I'll be describing the subject selection process, which is the fun part for you, selecting your own subjects. You've waited from year 7 right up until now to select your program that's individualised to you. So it's really exciting. So I do encourage you to listen really carefully and get the most out of today. And I'll also talk to you about the virtual subject expo that's in place of what we would normally have had tonight, being the information evening and subject expo. So in terms of the Year 11 pathway options, we have two main pathways at GLC, the first one being VCE, which is the Victorian Certificate of Education. We've got the VCAL pathway, which sits alongside as a separate pathway, which is the Victorian Certificate of Applied Learning, and Miss Peters is going to be talking about that in a lot more detail in a little while. We also have the VET program, which is Vocational Education Training, and as part of both the VCE and VCAL pathways, you can choose a VET option, and Mr. Mara will be talking about that in a little bit of time as well. As well as these programs, we have a school-based apprenticeship trainee program, which students can undertake as part of their VCE or their VCAL, but it sits and fits much better with the VCAL program. Mr. Mara will touch on that soon too. There's a lot of acronyms as you move into senior school. One of the very important ones is VCAR, so the Victorian Curriculum and Assessment Authority. They're the governing body governing VCE and the VCAL program. So they supply all the curriculum, the regulations, the policies that we have to follow here at GLC, and every school in Victoria has to follow. Now, moving on to the VCE, this is the pathway option that I want to talk with you about in a bit more detail. As some of you may know, VCE has 4 units, units 1 through to 4. Generally, units 1 and 2 are undertaken in Year 11, but some of you I know currently are or have already undertaken Unit 1 and are just starting to undertake Unit 2. But generally, you'll complete most of your Unit 1 and 2 units as a Year 11 student. So sometimes I might say Year 11 subjects, I'm actually meaning Unit 1 and 2 subjects. Similarly with Unit 3 and 4, they're generally Year 12 subjects undertaken by Year 12 students. But if you're accelerating this year in a 1-2 subject, next year as a Year 11, you'll do that sequence as a 3-4 subject. So again, I might talk about Year 12 subjects, but I'm meaning Unit 3 and 4 subjects, and some of you might be doing those as an accelerated subject and therefore in Year 11 rather than in Year 12. By the end of Year 12, all of you, if you choose to undertake the VCE, should complete 6 Unit 3-4 subjects. The subjects that we offer at GLC are all detailed in this 56-page document, Senior Pathways. And rather than photocopying those and killing forest, I'm going to send this via email to you tomorrow with a lot of other things, and I'm also going to send a CareMonkey notice to your parents with this booklet in it. So in this booklet has a lot of the information that I'm going through today, such as the VCE and VCAL pathway, as well as many different subject descriptions for VCE and VCAL subjects. Now, just to let you know that there are some levies for some subjects. So on top of your normal tuition fees, you may be charged an extra levy if you choose particular subjects. So food studies, outdoor environment studies, product design, studio art, and if you choose to do a vet subject on campus, there will be extra fees associated with those subjects. And that's to cover the specialised equipment that you use and resources that you tap into in those subjects. The Virtual Subject Expo, which I'll get to now, is in place of what we would normally run tonight. Usually when we can have parents and grandparents and guardians and caregivers and lots of students together on campus, we would set up the G block and have lots of expos of all the different VCE subjects. There's about 30 in total, as well as the VCAL subjects on top of that. And you could go around and talk to the teacher and see the textbooks that are used in that subject. Now, because we can't do that, all of our teachers have put together subject information clips, so virtually you can hear about those subjects in terms of what the course description is, what the expectations are, what type of learner that subject suits, as well as the different SATs and assessment tasks and excursions that might be involved in that subject. So that link is going to be sent out tomorrow via a CareMonkey notice and also in the email that contains this as well. Now, just an example of a sample student program. So this is just what a grid might look like for a particular student once they choose their subjects. So you can see there, this particular student, Year 10 student, has undertaken an accelerated subject in Health and Human Development, Units 1 and 2. So they're undertaking that VCE program a little bit early. In Year 11, they will choose the Unit 3 and 4 sequence in that subject to continue that acceleration. But on top of that, they're going to choose from a suite of Year 11 subjects. And in this case, they've chosen English, and that's a compulsory subject. You have to choose VCE English or English Literature. If you want to do both of those, you can, but you must do one. Math methods they've chosen, biology and legal studies they chose. They did it for one unit, but they may have decided that it wasn't for them. So you can see here that they've moved from Unit 1 legal into Unit 2 history. But you'll notice here that these Year 12 sequences stay as they are. You can't do one Unit 3 subject and then change halfway through and go into a different subject for Unit 4. But you can do that in Unit 1 and 2. And they've chosen a vet subject of allied health. So it gives you a little bit of an idea about what the subjects look like. And you'll see there that there's quite a number of those subjects. Now, to give you a little bit more background into the VCE has two purposes, and this is really important to understand. The first purpose is to get the certificate. So at the end of Year 12, you'll be sent by VCAR a beautiful VCE certificate. So that's the first purpose. The second purpose is to actually get some sort of ranking. So your achievement becomes important. Now, that assessment ranking is what we refer to as the ATAR. So the ATAR is actually a ranking. Now, with your VCE certificate, to get that, you need to complete a certain number of units, from Unit 1 through to Unit 4. And each unit has about 2 to 3 outcomes, and you get assessed based on a pass, which is called satisfactory, or not passing, which is not satisfactory. So you may get an S, satisfactory, or an N, but you don't want an N, because if you get an N, that doesn't then lead to your VCE certificate attainment. So we want to get lots of S's and S's for everything. If you get an S, it means you passed that particular unit, okay? And passing the unit means that you've done two things. The first thing means that you have completed all the coursework satisfactorily. So all your classwork tasks, homework tasks, collaborative, group work, all of the things that your teacher's asking you to do, you've completed and done so successfully. That's the first thing. The second thing you've done is you have successfully completed your SACS or SATs. SACS is school assessed coursework and SATs are school assessed tasks. Those tasks you will get graded on, and if you don't achieve an S for that particular task, you've got an opportunity to redeem that task. What that means is that mark that you get for that task still stands. You might have got 16 out of 50. That still stays, and that is rated by your teacher as not satisfactory. You then have an opportunity to resit that task or an equivalent task to gain a satisfactory result, to show that you actually do understand all the coursework behind that task. So in order to get your S, you have to do those two things: coursework requirements and get an S for all of your assessment tasks, which are your SACs or SATs, depending on the subject. Now that's to get your certificate. If you would like to pursue a university pathway, then the ATAR becomes very relevant to you. The ATAR is a ranking, and you get a score for your ATAR. Now in Year 11, currently you get a school report, and it has very low ratings through to very high ratings, and the school attributes how well you've done and gives you a score in that way. At Year 12, you will also get a rating that reflects your achievement. Okay, but that rating then counts towards a study score for each individual subject and an ATAR, which is an aggregate, which is adding up all the scores that you get for all of your subjects, and you get an overall score. So it's important to note that your achievement in Year 11 doesn't contribute to the ATAR, but your achievement in Year 12 does contribute to the ATAR score. I'll talk a little bit more about study scores in a moment. Mr. Ma. Mr. Ma, as you know, is our Pathways Coordinator here at GLC and has many, many years of experience and training counselling students in career pathways, and part of that is coordinating the VET program, so he'll talk with you about that now.
Okay, so for the expo, the virtual one, there isn't a VET slide because there are about 30 subjects that you could do in VET. So if you wish to do a VET, it's important that you come and see me. So most of the VET subjects that most students do here are at the Gordon, but there are other opportunities as well. So we've got a couple of students that have done equine at Bellarine Secondary, a few students have done music or outdoor rec at Belmont. Oxygen College provides photography, and then there's also GITTC, which is Geelong Industries Trade Training Centre, and they've got lots of trade type subjects. We haven't had anyone go there yet. It's a little bit further out. It's out towards Coria. It's a bit harder to get to, and most people tend to go to the Gordon if they're interested in a trade from here. But if you are interested in going to GITTC, I can sort that one out for you as well. The thing about VET, probably the most important thing, is that there is an additional cost. So the school will pay $500 of the costs, and you are, or your family, are to pay the rest of the costs. costs range from around about $1,000 to around about $2,000. It depends on the course, and a lot of it is buying your equipment or using the specialised equipment that you need for vet. For vet, there is a 3 to 4 week trial period. So if you think that you'd like to try it, you can try it without having to pay anything for those first 3 or 4 weeks. After that, however, if you decide, don't like it, and you want to change, you will incur the full cost of the course. Okay, so it's important with vet that you make up your mind and say yes or no early. All vet courses, first year, run on a Wednesday afternoon. Second year, run on a Monday afternoon. So there are a couple of you that are doing vet subjects at the moment. So for second year, you'll be switching to Monday afternoon. For the majority of you, if you choose to do a vet next year, you'd be going off Wednesday afternoon. School organises all transport to the place that you are doing your training. Parents are responsible for picking you up afterwards. The difficulty with vet is that courses finish about 4:30, 5 o'clock, for some courses 5:30, 6 o'clock. So they do finish later than school, and you need to find your own way home. I think I have covered everything. Some vets are scored assessed, so they're called VCE vets. So they do contribute to your score for an ATAR. Others aren't, but they can still contribute to your ATAR. You get 10% of your 4th highest subject. Okay, so you get a 10% value for your vet studies. Okay, that is everything.
Thanks, Mr. Marr. Bless you. So in terms of the calculation of the ATAR, so as I mentioned before, the ATAR is a ranking. On this particular student's score sheet, they've got 6 subjects, and with these 6 subjects, the first 4 are in a different colour there for a reason. English will always count in your top 4, and you'll receive 100% of that score, and it contributes to your ATAR in that way. So to explain that a little bit more, looking at the third column, we've got GA1. When you get your results sent to you, it'll look similar to this, where it will have the subject, it'll have a column that says GA1. GA1 is all the work that you do in semester 1 for that subject. And that grade there, the B+, is a VCAR derived grade. So they come up with what grade matches the information that your teacher sends VCAR about your achievement. And this student's got a B+ for their first semester. Second semester, which is Unit 4, they've got a B score, so that's GA2. GA3 column refers to the exam for that subject. So in English, they got a B. Now, all of that adds up to a study score of 31. Now, study scores for most subjects, excluding languages, are out of 50. So a perfect score is 50. Languages can be a little bit higher than that. An average study score for a subject is 30. You'd think it was 25, being half of 50, but it's not. It's 30. So in this case, this student got 31. Now the scaled score column is where, and Mr. Marr, you might be able to help me out with this particular one because it's a little bit tricky. The scaled score is based on, well, it's subject specific. Different subjects, based on their perceived level of difficulty, are scaled up or down. Now, most subjects are scaled down, except for your sciences generally, your languages and literature. they're scaled up, as well as your higher end maths, they're scaled up, but all the other subjects are scaled down. And so...
Can I explain it?
Yes, sure. Yeah.
So I'll use chemistry as an example. So if you do chemistry, what they do is they look at every student that did chemistry in the state and say this is their average score for chemistry. And they look at every subject that those chemistry students did and look at the average score of those subjects. And if chemistry is graded up, they look at the two and they go, oh, they actually did worse in chemistry than they did in all their other subjects on average. So therefore, chemistry was a hard subject and we will put it up. So we'll give them a bit of a score. So if you didn't do as well in that subject as the average did in all their other subjects, then it gets scaled up. If you do much better, it gets scaled down. So that's how it works. That's how scaling works. Saying that, don't choose subjects based on scaling.
Yes.
It doesn't work.
Yes, absolutely. And scaling is really important when you come to choosing your subjects, which we'll talk about in a moment. So going back to English, the scaled score is 28.89. That whole score contributes to your ATAR. Your next best 3 subjects contribute 100% to your ATAR. So health and human development, 37.16, biology, 34.91, and PE, 34.72. So the whole study score goes into the ATAR. For your 5th and 6th subject, only 10% of your study score contributes to the ATAR. So while this student got a 31.17 in psychology, which was a little bit above average, which was great, only 10%, 3.11, contributes to the ATAR. Similarly with that 5th subject. So that all of those scores are added up and you get an aggregate. Now, that aggregate then
gets converted.
does get converted into a ranking, into a score. Now, perfect score is 99.95. You can't get any higher than that for your ATAR. And in terms of actually calculating which students get 99.95, just say they look at the top, just say the top 20 students in the state got the same score and they got 220, which is the highest they can get here if everything was perfect. They get 220, they automatically gets converted to an ATAR of 99.95. The next group of students who get the same score, say the next 20 students, will then get an ATAR of 99.90, and it goes down in 0.05 increments.
Yeah, so basically what they do at the start of the year is there's this many students doing year 12. So we have got from 99.95 down to 0.00, however many slots there are in that averages that number of students. So that number of students fill each of those slots. Okay, so you might get 10 students who get the perfect score, 220. Then you might have another 10 students that get 219 or close to that, or 219.5. So they're the first 20, and it might be 20 students per slot. So they go into that 99.95. And then the next 20. So for this example, this student got a study score, an aggregate study score of 141.3. Everyone who got 141.3 will get an ATAR of 79.15. So you're not disadvantaged if you do different subjects. You're not disadvantaged. So if there was 30 students that got 141.3, they would all get 79.15. So it's not like, oh, you were the first one to get 141 and you were the last one, so sorry, you go down to the next level. Everyone who gets the same study score gets the same ATAR. So if you look at this student, this 40, that means they were in the top 9% of the state. Okay? If you get a 30, you're in the top 50%. So from 30 to 40, you have got 40% of the cohort. So the higher up you are, the better you were.
Yep. So anything here above 30 means that they're above average, which is great. And as Mr. Marr said, anything above 40 is absolutely fantastic, top 9% of the state. we've got a little bit of a table here that shows you some of the scaling for different subjects. And you can see there, I've just highlighted the 30 because that's the average score. And you can see there, say for example, if we go to biology, if you were to get an unscaled score of 30 in biology, it actually stays the same. Business management goes down by 4, chemistry is scaled up by 4. So you do need to have a little bit of a look at this, but it's very important, as Mr. Marr said, not to base your subject choices on what subjects are scaled up and what subjects are scaled down. And we can give you a fantastic example of the student who wanted to do all the subjects that were going to be scaled up to get a higher ATAR. And that student was not necessarily interested in physics, sorry, Mr. Marr, physics, chemistry, all the sciences, and therefore they found it very difficult to work at that capacity that was expected for all of those subjects, and they didn't do as well. So they got a score here. The person who chooses their subjects based on what they love, what they're interested in, where their strengths are, they might be subjects that are scaled down, but their unscaled scores up here, it gets scaled down and it's there. It's still higher than the person who's chosen all the hard subjects and doesn't really want to do them, and it's not relevant to them, and that's not where their strengths lie. So it's very important to choose based on what you want to do in the future, what you really enjoyed in the past, and where your strengths are as a student.
And scaling is based on the cohort. So historically, yes, chemistry usually gets marked up, but there is no reason why next year, the year after, it couldn't be scaled down. Okay, so if you have an exceptionally good group of students do chemistry, it could get scaled down. So just because historically this happens, doesn't mean that it happens all the time, especially for these types of subjects, like the ones that we've got 31, 28, they're close to 30, so they could go either way. We probably need to explain as well that most scaling happens in the middle. Out on the outer edges, the scale doesn't get moved as much. So a 50 is a 50. A 50 doesn't get changed, except for languages.
Yeah, you can see that here. The higher the unscaled score is, the higher the scaled score.
Yeah. So you don't think I'm going to ace this subject and I'll get more than 50. That's not going to happen. But if you're going to do really well, you might only get, in a subject that gets scaled up by 8 in the centre, you might only get 1 or 2 points scaled if you're good at it. Same as if you're really bad at it, if it gets scaled up, you might only get 1 or 2 points scaled up. So it's really important not to choose by scaling.
Well,
so that becomes your study score, yes.
Your study score is based on your school-based assessment here. So each outcome, we have 2 to 3 outcomes per subject. Say Unit 3 Psychology, we've got 2 outcomes, we have 2 SACs. And then those SACs are out of 50 marks each, and you get a score based on that gets sent to VCAR, and VCAR say, okay, that score is a C, it's a B, it's an A, and they allocate a grade based on the number that the teacher sends.
So your study score is based on what you did at school, plus how you did in the GAT, plus a bit of mathematical algorithm that goes on at VCAR. Okay, so that's why most teachers will never say you are sitting on a study score, because we don't know.
What's a GAT?
General Assessment Test. Every Year 12, and if you're doing a 3-4 subject in Year 11, we'll do the GAT. So the GAT this year is a 3-hour exam. Next year it's bigger. It's 2 parts. I can't remember. I think it's 2 2-hour exams next year. So it's general assessment. It is not a specific subject. You cannot study for the GAT. It works on general knowledge. But what it does, it's basically got sciencey bits, it's got humanities bits, it's got humanities bits, it's got English bits, and they see how well you do in those areas. So if you're not a science person, you're still expected to do the science questions in the GAT. In fact, they don't say these are science questions, they're just science-based, and they know which ones they are. And then you get scored according to that, okay? If you don't do science, it doesn't matter. But if you are doing the science and you do badly in the science section of the GAT, that can affect your study score. So the GAT, it's important you do well in. You'll get told in Year 12 by other students, don't stress about the GAT, just take it easy, relax, don't. Do as well as you can, because your scores can be derived from it.
One of the other really important reasons or purposes of the GAT is, and we don't usually like to talk about this because it is on rare occasions, that sometimes the student may not be able to make it to an exam for medical reasons. So the GAT, the score that you get on the GAT, can also help VCAR determine what study score to give you for the subject that you've missed the exam of. Okay, as well as obviously the data that comes from the school, the GAT is really important in providing an indicator of your aptitude for general knowledge and all of those sorts of things that might lead into that particular subject. So if it's a maths science subject that you miss, they'll have a look at your answers to the questions related to that area on the GAT, and that will help them determine what score to give you for that subject.
And from 2021, VCAL students will be completing a component of the GAT, depending on what certificate level they're doing.
I think that leads in perfectly to VCAL, Ms. Peters.
So, the Victorian Certificate of Applied Learning is also a senior secondary pathway that we offer here at the school. It runs parallel and alongside the BCE, as you've seen by an earlier icon. This certificate varies a little bit because it does provide students with practical work-related experiences as well as literacy and numeracy skills. And these are the skills that are important for life and for work. So VCAL is a pathway to employment, careers and future education. And if you like real-world learning and you know where you want to go in the future, then VCAL may be a good choice for you. Through the VCAL program here at GLC, we aim to prepare you for jobs of the future by harnessing your employability skills. These are skills like planning and organising, teamwork, communication, initiative and enterprise, problem solving, learning, technology and self-management. And these are applied in a range of our VCAL subjects. So the VCAL qualification actually aims to provide you with the skills, the knowledge and the attributes to help you make informed choices about your employment and education pathways. So we look to your interests and your pathways in order to design a flexible curriculum to suit your needs. VCAL focuses on the individual by placing importance on the development of these personal skills and employability skills. You will learn directly from experts in the field with the opportunity to network and learn from the best in the industry. VCAL does differ slightly from the Victorian Certificate of Education because unlike the VCE, VCAL's objectives are to prepare you to enter the workforce or further vocational training. A requirement of VCAL is that you complete a VET subject, which Mr. Ma has talked about, and you'll also need to complete a structured work placement component as well. At the moment it's currently occurring on a Thursday where you work in industry. More than half, and I just want to let you know that more than half of all students starting a bachelor degree at university are admitted on a basis other than their ATAR. There are an increasing number of students who are successfully applying to tertiary institutes without an ATAR score, as their entry can be based on a range of different criteria. We're seeing more Victorian universities understand the diverse needs of our learners and recognise that for some students a TAFE pathway is a better supported option into a bachelor degree.
Can I just add there, the last 2 years we have had VCAL students from here enrol at RMIT to do a TAFE course, and one of them is now doing a bachelor course, so it is possible.
So at GLC we offer 3 VCAL levels at Foundation, Intermediate and Senior, and you'll start and complete your VCAL certificate at the level that matches your needs and your abilities. So in order to achieve a VCAL certificate, you do need to complete 10 units of study from 4 compulsory strands, and those strands are literacy, numeracy, work-related skills, personal development skills, and there also is a strand on industry-specific skills, which your vet ticks off. So a VCAL program can include both VCAL units, VCE units, and a vet subject. In addition to leaving with your VCAL certificate, here at GLC we aim to increase the number of qualifications you leave our school with. So it's additional certificates such as first aid, barista course, white card, responsible service of alcohol, and safe food handling. So these certificates combined with your vet certificate will help you obtain your VCAL certificate. Now, entry into the VCAL program is through application and interview only, so you will need to come and see me or email me if you wish to apply. But thank you for your time.
Thanks, Ms. Peters. Did you want to talk about the VCAL workplace at all in more detail?
No, I think, it is occurring on a Thursday at the moment, but it does allow you to enter the workplace. A lot of students do use it as an opportunity to enter an apprenticeship or a traineeship should they become available.
And it also gives students a chance to explore. So if they're not 100% certain what they're interested in, it gives them a chance to explore. So 2 years ago we had a student coming to school to do our VCAL program, wanted to be a plumber. He did some work with the primary kids and decided, he decided he's not good at heights, but plumbing's not his deal. Found that he enjoyed working with the primary kids and went on to do classroom assistant. So it gives you a chance to explore. Oh, okay, seeing as that leads into me. So that student I was just talking about said, yeah, I'm really keen on working with primary kids. And so we found him a school-based apprenticeship in educational assistant. Okay, so school-based apprenticeships and traineeships are usually, they fit really well into VCAL, usually into the second year of VCAL, because most of the ones that we do are traineeships. Having said that, 2 years ago we did have a school-based apprenticeship carpenter. He picked that up during his last year at school, and when he left school, last day of school, the next day was his first day of work. So we went straight into work, switched it from a school-based apprenticeship to a full-time apprenticeship, and is now happily working in his trade as an apprentice. So we can get, if you're really keen on being a tradie and you can find somebody who can take you on as a school base, it can take up to 6 months off your apprenticeship. The good thing about a school-based apprenticeship, you're doing a vet program, but you don't have to pay for it. Your employer pays for your vet, in this case of a school-based apprenticeship. Best way to get one, come and talk to me and I will help you out. Usually though, what happens is you get into the VCAL program and I will help you through that. The downside, if you want to be a VCE student doing a school-based apprenticeship or traineeship, you've got Wednesday afternoon training, so at your vet, and you've got to find time in your timetable for a day release to work, because part of the traineeship is that your apprenticeship is that you are working. So it fits much better into a VCAL program.
Thanks, Mr. Marr. So just to recap, we've got 2 pathways at Year 11, the VCE pathway and the VCAL pathway. With VCAL, you can choose a VCE subject in there. With both of the pathways, you can choose a VET subject. Alongside that, we've got the school-based apprenticeship, which fits better into the VCAL program than the VCE program, given that you're not at school all of the time and you miss subjects for VCE. Just quickly, requirements of a senior school student. We've got the importance of managing the balance between work and home life. There are higher expectations on VCE and VCAL students moving into the senior years. So while Year 9 to 10 was a step up, Year 10 to 11 is a bigger step up. But it's very important to maintain a balance in your studies by ensuring that you still pursue your hobbies and, you know, part-time job and those family commitments that you have outside of school. In terms of planning a program, it's important to seek as much information on your pathway as possible. So please talk with Mr. Maher about careers, talk with Ms. Peters about VCAL, and obviously VET and school-based apprenticeships sit with Mr. Maher as well. I can help you with VCE, but certainly VCE teachers can as well, and other staff in the school. In terms of planning a program as well, in the email that I send you tomorrow, there will be a link to a few different resources, so please have a look at those resources, go onto some tertiary websites via this link and have a look at subjects that are required, prerequisites, meaning you have to do that subject if you want to get into that university course, if pursuing a university pathway through completion of the VCE. So please read your email carefully that I send out tomorrow, because it's got lots of information there for you to use before you choose your subjects. As I said, the virtual expo clips will be released tomorrow. In that email, there'll be some URLs that will take you to the clips that have been recorded. From there, we've got subject selection process interviews. You'll notice the A3 sheet up here on the windows. You need to sign up to either see Mrs. Engelman, myself or Mr. Maher next Tuesday or Wednesday for a subject selection interview. In preparation for that interview, you'll be putting in a draft selection of your subjects for next year. Now, I'll just quickly take you to that subject selection web preferences process. It's similar to the Year 9 and 10 process that you would have gone through to select your subjects. Tomorrow, as well as an email from myself, you will also receive an email from Mr. Sophonius, which has the web preferences link. So I'll just quickly go there now and show you what that looks like. So when you get into that email from Mr. Sophonius, you'll click on Web Preferences and it will take you to this page. This will look familiar to you from last year and the year before. There's some instructions that you need to read about selecting your subjects. If, for example, there's something that goes wrong with this software, there's the email address here for Mr. Sophonius to email. If you're unsure about subjects or anything program related, there's my email there for you to contact me with any questions that you might have. From there, you can navigate this page by looking at the subject details.
If you are planning to go to university and you have a rough idea of what courses you are interested in, please make sure you look at VTAC, which you can find through the careers website, and just see if there's any prerequisite subjects that you must do. If you don't meet the prerequisites, you will not get in. For most courses, the prerequisites are English, and that's it. If you wish to become a teacher, you must do maths in Year 11. If you wish to do nursing, some courses have maths as a prerequisite, Year 11 maths. If you wish to be an engineer, most engineering courses require you to have math methods. So if you're not doing math methods, you will not be an engineer immediately. Doesn't mean that there isn't a way to do it later, but immediately, if you want to go straight from school into university, you must meet the prerequisite subjects. Does that make sense? So if you're confused, come and see me, and I can direct you to where VTAC is, and I can show you how to get, how to navigate that. Okay. Most TAFE courses don't have prerequisites, but there are one or two that do. So same deal. Just check on that. We good?
Thank you, we're good. So when you go into that web preferences link, if you click on web preferences, it should take you directly to that page that I showed you. It's only if you log out that you'll need your username and password, which is located in the email from Mr. Saponius. So I've just popped in my username and password there. Now, when you go to this particular page, it's got a list of all the subjects that are offered, and we heard about the new subjects this morning that are offered for next year. So there's subject description. So I encourage you to have a look at those subject descriptions, as well as watching the clip from your VCE teachers. And then once you've informed yourself about these exciting subjects, you then need to add preferences. If you click on there, you will make a choice between a VCAL pathway or a VCE pathway. If you're choosing a VCE pathway, there will be instructions there that will have guidelines, particularly in bold. If you've done a Unit 1-2 subject this year, you can obviously choose Unit 3-4 in that subject for next year. But please don't choose a Unit 3-4 subject if you haven't done the Unit 1-2 accelerated subject this year. Similarly, if you wish to do a VET subject, it needs to be included in the subject preferences, but you need to talk with Mr. Maher about what that subject is first.
Yes, I think it'll just be listed as VET off campus, and then you need to come and see me, and we need to go through a process to get you enrolled in it.
That's right. So the very first preference is English. So you either need to choose English Units 1 and 2 or English Literature. You must choose one of those two. Now I've been in here before and just had a bit of a play around with it, so I've got some subjects in there. But I'm going to choose Unit 1-2 English. Now these will come up blank. So you just click here and all the subjects are there for you to choose from. So I might choose accounting. It's my second preference. My third, I'm going to go drama. My fourth, general maths, and so on and so forth. Now, we've got 6 subjects that you are going to choose, but because we haven't developed the timetable yet, we actually need you to put some reserve preferences in. Just in case, for any reason, those top 6 subjects that you've chosen, for some reason one doesn't run, we might not have enough students, for example. If we have a class of under 5 students, then it's probably not going to run, but you need to put in reserve preferences. As well, with the grid, you know that there's subjects on lines and they compete against each other, so you might find that preference 4 and 5 there, general maths and food, are on the same line. So we then look at your reserve preferences to see what other subject you'd like to do. So put your subjects in order of desirability. Obviously you have to have your English there, but your next subject should probably be your accelerated subject if you're accelerating, because that's a non-negotiable, that's what you want to do, otherwise you wouldn't have accelerated. From there, put them in priority order of the ones that you really want to do.
And that's really important, because if you put your least favourite up the top, we're going to assume it's your most favourite. Okay, so make sure you put them in order as much as you can. If you've got 2 or 3 that, you know, I don't mind either or any of those, that's fine, they can go in any order. But really important that the subjects you most want to do go first, second, third. Okay?
Okay, so I've popped all of my subjects in there. VC drum selected more than once, so I'm just going to go out and choose something else.
It will tell you if you're doing things wrong.
Yeah, there's
in the program.
no other warning that's come up, so I've probably done it right. And if there isn't a warning, you'll get that green bar that says proceed. So to click on that green bar means that you are submitting your first draft of subject preferences. You'll get this sheet here, this screen here, and what you need to do from there is to click on there, submit, and it will allow you to print that page. You must print that page, please, and bring that along to your subject selection appointment that you're going to sign up for in the next couple of days, so that we can talk with you about what subjects you've chosen and why. You can change your subjects up to 5 times on this program. So it is just a draft until you've had your subject selection appointment. Then after the appointment, we'll make suggestions. You'll then go into the email that Mr. Sophonius sent you, go through the process again, and finally submit your subjects that you want for 2021. They're Tuesday and Wednesday for the appointments, but you need to have at least logged into this and done a draft and got your printout before you come to that appointment. They're short interviews, they're about 15-minute interviews, so they are very short, and you do have permission to leave class to attend those. Also, we encourage you to talk with your parents about your subject selections. They can be a part of your subject selection interview if you like. What we ask you to do is bring the phone number that we can contact a parent on during that particular appointment. We'll get them on the telephone and have a 3-way conversation so that they're involved in that appointment as well. Usually we would do that with them coming on campus, but unfortunately that can't happen, so we can engage your parents if they would like to be involved by phone. Okay, it's really important that we talk with you about what subjects you've selected, because you might want to go into medicine but you've chosen humanities subjects and you need to choose maths and science subjects. So it's a time in which we can check what subjects you've chosen and make sure they match what sort of area you'd like to go into after school. If you're not sure of what area you want to go into after school, then we talk to you about your interest areas and choosing along, again, those lines predominantly. Please make sure you bring along that paper draft of your subjects. So just to very quickly go through the next step, after you've selected your subjects and you've put your final selections into the web preferences, we then take all of that information and we create the grid around what you want to do. And we do that so that we maximise the opportunities for you to make sure that most students get most of their preferences. Okay, so we minimise the clashes as much as possible. After that, you'll get confirmation of your subjects. Now, one thing we haven't talked about is the distance ed option through Virtual Schools Victoria. If, for example, there are subjects that we don't offer here at GLC that are prerequisites for your university pathway, if that's the case, or there's a clash in the timetable between 2 things that you really want to do, you can apply to do a distance subject and you need to come to me to talk about that. Okay. Not all subjects are offered via distance. For example, outdoor ed isn't offered via distance. Most subjects are, however. There is a cost, but the school covers that cost. But you also need to reflect on you as a learner and whether not having a teacher face-to-face is actually going to impact your learning or not. You need to be an independent, motivated learner who can keep up with the work and show a high degree of organisation and assertiveness. So have a think about that as an option if the grid comes out and there's a subject that you
If you didn't do well in remote learning, you won't do well in distance ed. If you didn't do well in remote learning, if you struggled when we were in lockdown, you will struggle with distance ed.
In terms of questions, thank you for asking them along the way. Are there any further questions? Before you go today, I'd encourage you, please, if you need more information, check your email that you'll get tomorrow, because it will have links to It will have links to all the resources that you need to make informed decisions. Please come and see Mr. Ma, myself or Miss Peters and talk with your current Year 10 teachers about what VCE subjects they offer, because they'll be a huge resource for you too. Thank you for your attention. I know it's been a long session, but it's been an important and an exciting session as well. So thanks everyone.